Hi, my name is Ken Asison. This is a dual purpose video. It is looking at a person's bottom side sample. He happened to be in Scandinavia, so my usual arrogant self, I dress Scandinavian. And he has been doing tests over literally the years. Appears to be making improvement from test to test, which is good. So he had the new test results, shipped the information over, saying what he has basically been doing lately and some of the characteristics of his symptoms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at his sample with the new simple UI being used mainly. So it is also going to be a walkthrough and explanation about the new UI in addition to addressing his request. So it's designed to be informative. The first thing I did, which actually uses the old UI, is look at the comparison from sample to sample to sample. And for this one, I'll go over and show you where it is. After you log in, you go over to old UI. Give it a second to do it. And we are talking about multiple samples here. We also have sample maintenance. If you need to or want to remove a sample, you can go to sample maintenance. Again, it's not part of the simple thing. It's part of the what was there, which I'm trying to trim down to be less saturating. People complain about too much information. So we go in here. And now we have it, and we have his sample there. And now we look for his last prior sample here, and we put it there. And now we have symptom matching as well as the thing. The symptom matching looks at these two samples and see how well the bacteria matching is doing against the symptoms which has been recorded. So you have to have symptoms recorded on each one of the two samples in order for this table to show up. And now we just do a update, and we are spinning. So we'll be there in a moment. And let me check something. Yes, sorry, I just misplaced something. Okay, and we now have numbers. The first thing you need to do always is be careful so you don't misinterpret is you want to go down to bacteria reported by the lab, because sometimes the lab gets better samples, sometimes get worse, sometimes there's processing hiccups. So you want to take a look here, and what we see is he had 500 in his last summer. He now has 600. In other words, he has 20% more bacteria types, which means that for most of the numbers here, if there was no change, you would expect these numbers to go up by 20%. So if they are the same, like here, probably means there's a reasonable chance to be there's improvement. If it has actually gone down, then there is a good improvement. So going from 2 to 3, I wouldn't worry about it. 7 to 6, improvement 21. 230 to 253. 20% of 230 is 46, so that's 276. So we would expect it to be 276 here. It's 253, so things have improved. So that is the thing you need to do. The numbers here are important numbers to correctly interpret. Just don't go the numbers and assume that they are on the same measuring stick. One is effectively in yards and one is in metric, or roughly equivalent like that. So take a look at these numbers, and the ratio between that is what you should be using for the ratio here. So we have C down the way in general the improvement. The one where we don't have improvement, this one's 551, but 20% of 551 is about 110. So adding that's 663. That that's 663 is what we would expect. We have 613, so we are better off. So things have improved because of that. Now over here we have symptoms which the person has, and let's see how they compare. Okay, this one went from 91 for the weighing down to 81, 89 to 81, 84 to 81. So we are seeing a good number of decreased degree of match with the symptom pattern, which implies that these symptoms will probably be better. Worse and better here can get a little bit confusing. So generally just take a look at there and do evaluation. So that is where we are getting the base table. Okay, so that covers how we get that table. Again, do it. One thing which you notice I blanked out here is I used to be working with 90 and 10. From some of the works I've done, I found that 85 and 15 are better cutoff points. And so thereby, if you go to, if you want to be technical, you would need to redo all of them with the new measures to see what the thing. And the other thing happens is things like standard deviation will change as more samples comes in, which means the old number may have been, for example, 6 here, now it goes down to 5, or may have been on 2 and jumps up to 5. And that's because the lab range has changed because we have more samples, so we get a more accurate lab range. Okay, now here is the description on the pattern matching, which we just saw. And now going forward, we have, and let's go back to there, we have 3 basic steps, all working with the simple UI, which we'll be using. And I'll just bring it in right here. And we have novice, just tell me what to take or avoid. If you have no idea of what to do, then just run with that one. But generally, suggestions is you probably want to do beginner symptoms, and it will now go and calculate out. And here are the symptom matching you have. So you take a look down, and wherever you have that symptom description in the list, you just put a check mark there. You leave it checked here, so that it will automatically be saved, which means we'll get better accuracy for the next time. So go through and mark out the ones which are matched. You can see once we get down to a certain level, a lot of our forecast symptoms and his actuals are in agreement. And now we come here, and over here we have all the possibilities. Include commercial probiotics. Probiotic mixture is a good suggestion. And we could do other things, prescription drugs, because this person has access to a MD who is willing to prescribe antibiotics, we could include it. So we have built in everything that way. So that is our preferred first choice, which is get it. Now, if you happen to have a lab, a typical lab, not one of the big ones which we have lots of data about, then this may be a totally blank, in which case then we go over to the PubMed way of doing things. Okay, let's just click here and get suggestions. So after waiting a little bit of time, there's a lot of calculations going because we are doing the Monte Carlo model, or the consensus. We do 5 different approaches, 4 to 5 different approaches for getting suggestions, and then we combine them to get the ones where we have the greatest agreement on, so that we have probably a good suggestion. Nobody knows the exact right way to get suggestions. If they claim so, they are a influencer, not necessarily a scientist. So here we get his list of symptoms. Rather long list of symptoms, but well worth entering. And now we get the bacteria which was picked, and well, we have some interesting names which shows up, but we get 46 different bacteria were picked, either being high or low, and from that we ended up going over into suggestions. First suggestions happen to be grain alcohol. Probably the reason is the grain alcohol will inhibit a whole bunch of different bacteria. Not all of them. Some bacteria lives off alcohol, others don't. So given this person in Scandinavia, he may be time to break out the snaps as for medicinal purposes. But the next one is a very common antibiotic or antifungal used for chronic fatigue syndrome, which I have marked there. And then we get into a variety of non-antibiotics there and we for now remember that you can determine the size of the list you want here is 30. So if you want to see 60 or 100, you just change the numbers there and we'll list them off. And then we have things to avoid over here. Unfortunately, this person may not be too happy with having to avoid lingonberry, which is one of his ethnic specialities. So there, but we have things marking down, and then down at the bottom we have by weight the number of probiotics, and generally what happens is you want the one with the least number of species with a particular weight. When we have 3 and there, it means that the key probiotic, which is probably Lactobacillus helveticus in this case, is mixed with 2 other things which has no impact. So you might just get the straight form over there, and if you click here you will get information on where to get it. So AR probiotic 3 is the top one, probably having a good mixture of things, and then we go down here and we see different ones. Generally when the number agrees, it means it's the same key probiotic species in everything that's there. And then we go down, and then we have a major drop of weight down to 8. So in other words, these are the ones you would probably want to concentrate on taking. The ones with lower values will have probably a lot less impact. Okay, so that is it for method number 1. Method number 2 is going to PubMed studies. Now, there's an important difference between the two. When we are doing the symptom base, we are comparing it to other self-report people with the same identical lab processing you did, in this case biomycite, and what they have self-declared their symptoms to be. So the detection is lab sensitive, which means we get much better accuracy in identifying which bacteria are likely involved. Now, when we go over to PubMed, we are working from PubMed literature, which is generally doesn't have as much information, and worse yet, there may be 5 studies, and each of the study used a different lab, and you're going to get mismatch, disagreement, etc. There's a blog post I did and have often referred to called the taxonomy nightmare before Christmas. Basically, you get one sample as a digital file and you process it through 97 different analysis chains. You get 97 different answers, some radically different from each other. So it's that type of data we are making use of here, which tends to be a major pain because you are going to get less accurate results. So what we do is we go down here and we check any conditions which happens to be matched, and the degree of matching is there. So you want the ones with higher match, but you can do as many as you want. We have I think this person indicated something about coagulation issues, probably APS. We have allergy, which can be histamine issues. I think we actually have allergies down here, which is not as strong a match. And we can go on down, and there we have chronic fatigues there, but the match isn't a strong match for chronic fatigue anymore. So we do as many as we want. We can go and, as before, list everything. I'm going to do that, but generally for PubMed I do not suggest doing it because we don't have enough fineness of information, and we'll find out what we get in a second. So I'll click here and we'll go and get suggestions. And we have the 10 here. So we have a quarter of the number of using the symptom signs, and we have less reliability of correct identification. And now we come down here and we list things. Chicory, I believe, was on the ever list. Whole grain diet, whey was on the ever list. I remember Lacoot was on the ever list. So you will get some agreement between the two of them. And here we have the antibiotics showing up, so it's not as high on the list. And down below we have the probiotics, which is in this case, very, very similar to the other one, just different weights of values, which means we have agreement, which is always a key aspect on that way. So we now have lists. Again, you can have the list shorter or longer. We have things to avoid. For example, no pork is a suggestion. No carrots. No hops, which probably means no beer, since beers are there. And then we have high fat diet and low fat diet. Dealing with pork. Pork is probably high fat. The low fat means you want to have a reasonable amount of fat in the diet. So don't absolutely cut off everything that's fat. Don't go ultra lean. Okay, so that's there. Now the third one is probiotic computed from cake data. This one takes a little bit of explanation. Basically, we, from the entire microbiome, calculate all of the compounds which are being produced and consumed, identify if you are low on one or high on one. And that comes from some of the research finding that the compound shifts are consistent from one groups of lab to different groups of lab to a third group of lab, all in agreement, which means they are a better predictor of what is causing it than the individual bacteria, because in some cases you won't get any bacteria in agreement between 3 different lab sets for the same self-declared symptoms. In other words, nobody agrees, and that is again all back tied into the taxonomy nightmare before Christmas, which is a real pain on which people don't talk about, because if you talk about it, then somebody has to come up to a solution about it or figure out what to do or explain it. How do you handle it when you don't know if the bacteria which is in the report is the actual bacteria in the report? So this one, the Killer Encyclopedia, is actually gets around this whole issue by taking all the information, and we actually indirectly doing metagenomics on the report. Even though they disagree, the metagenomics seems to come out in agreement, which I was absolutely delighted to see. It was not expected, but once I saw it, the light went on and said, okay, it works. And now we have 2 options here. We can see which probiotic will supply the missing compound, or we could add in which probiotics will consume compounds we have too much of. I have both of them because I like giving people choices so that hopefully they don't shoot themselves in the foot too much. But generally, I keep the low compound. Why? Because health impact is greater when people are starving than when people are obese. So we're doing the same thing. We're going to take care of the pro-starving bacteria rather than the surplus. Often the surplus will simply be ignored and be rushed out and be pushed out in your urine, expressed by your kidneys, etc. So the surplus will probably have a very small effect. If you're paranoid about it, you could include it, but generally go for low compound only. This list here doesn't matter. It's not relevant, and probably we should get around to hiding it. And now we just get suggestions. And we are off getting suggestions, which will be there in a few moments. And there we are. and it will list them and gives that. The number here, it says that 66 of the compounds you're low in will be provided by E. coli, or 69 by the Pseudomonas putida. Now, everyone here is available somewhere in some probiotic somewhere in the world. However, finding it tends to be problem, and sometimes they are part of a mixture, and in which case you have something which are good and something which are bad, and you get decision making, which is why down below I have the results. So what we have here is we have Mutaflora, which is the E. coli probiotic, or Semaphore 2, both of which are sitting there being 66. We have two other things which are mixtures, which are probably mixtures, I suspect, with 28 here, and this one thing has 100 different species in there, but it does have a significant positive effect, and that is from all the ones up above. And then you drop down to Bacillus subtilis, which is a decent amount, and Bacillus maceraris, which is you can get directly from Maple Life Science as a single strain probiotic, which is sweet. And then we have down, so you can go on page through, etc. So we end up walking through and we have a whole list. Now, we thereby end up having a third list. So if we go here, we see the examples, the list of what things are picked, keg derived. And now at this point of time, we can go in and we can actually look at the ones which are we've done up above, and we can go in and just say, okay, so AOR, there it is. It's a positive one. It's one which we should be taking. It's suggested up above, and in the direct K calculation it's there. We can do that for bioflora, etc. We could go back up here and take a look at some of the other ones. For example, okay, we have, now I'm going to go over and hop back to this page and take a look at the full list over there, and then pop this page on, up top. We got Helvenicus there. Let's see where that one sits. Helvenicus is there with a positive impact. And we can go in and Muricin is there, and Bioflorin is there. And then we have Bioflorins 25. So you can cross compare, and the ideal thing is to keep the probiotics which are on this list and which are positive value here. Some cases you will find that there are negative values for weight, but that's only if you incorporate things that consume it. In other words, if I go back to our page where we have there, and if I just do consumers and get suggestions, we see we have E. coli up at the top, a couple others, but we see some of the others actually have no impact or zero impact or low value. So some cases I will see negative numbers here. Okay, so let's go in and finish up. So going forward, my preference is to reconcile the sets of suggestions for probiotics and then come up with a list. For example, here's 5 things which are both lists, all good, everybody's agree on, and then go in and start taking them, start a low dose and work up the dosage, perhaps go above what is on the bottle or the container as you go towards the end of a 2-week period. Don't be surprised if you will hurt or have adverse reactions like having to go diarrhea, having almost diarrhea for a day or two. It means the probiotics is doing the job. So 1 to 2 weeks, go to the next one, 1 to 2 weeks. Antibiotics, the only one that really sticks out to me is this one. And generally antibiotic is 1 per week, per month. I tend to follow Dr. Cecile Zardine approach, which has worked for me, seems to work for others. It means that you're complementing back and forth, so you could do that. And then there some cases you may want to actually check up to see if it has an impact. And then foods, and you have the key list of foods, and you can go over and look at the consensus view, and you can take a look there. Now I'm just going to show you one thing which some people don't realize is if you click on the antibiotic and you go over there, and you'll see the impact, and you'll see that some of them decreases, some of them increases. For example, we see some bifidobacterium will actually increase. Let's check 2 of them. We have Reuteri. It increases. In other words, you can take Lactobacillus reuteri with just antibiotic, and they work together. Isn't that wonderful? Or you can take a look at coli. So don't take it with the Imidaflor ones. Let's say Miricin or Colostrum. There it reduces, so again that one to be avoided. However, we do find that the Reuteri, Lactobacillus reuteri, actually works quite nicely for them. And I think we had Subtilis, I think somewhere around. We don't find that, so there's no known impact on Bacillus subtilis, which means there's not a problem taking it. It's a neutral. So the information is there. I thought I should point it out because most people makes the incorrect assumption that anything antibacterial or similar kills everything. It don't. Sometimes it actually helps helps the probiotic. So I just wanted to illustrate that little bit of fun mischief. Okay, so let's go back to the description. I think that covers it. Again, always have the suggestions reviewed by your MD to make sure that there's not a unanticipated effect. Most of the time, there's not an issue. Sometimes some of the suggestions are prescription or over-the-counter drug, which your MD may have a opinion on good, bad, or neutral. Some cases they may actually encourage you because it has benefits for other things, such as just like this particular antibiotic has benefits for a probiotic. Okay, that's it. So this is a walkthrough of using the new using the new simple UI, and there. So go here, and we have there trying to make life simple. So basically do one or the other, and just for mischief's sake, I'll just do what the novice suggestion is. Notice that I excluded from the novice the antibiotics, because if you're doing novice, you don't want to go there. We have 38 entries here, and we've noticed we have some similarity: gun Arabic, chicory, omega-3, etc. So there is some agreement there, which is to be expected there. So there, and I believe we also had the option, if I remember right, yes, we could include commercial probiotics there, so you could do that too, and it will show up over on that page. And then down the probiotic, EA, wherever it is, well, never mind. Okay, you can figure it out yourself, I trust. Okay, and I just remember the last thing I was wanting to do is going to the old UI, changing microbiome, and now we can look at the consensus view, which shows everything, and we have 472 items listed there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just see where things are going. Tetracycline, oh nope, tetracycline isn't there, so it has no apparent one. Let's try clove. Clove is a minus, in other words, it is going to push you in the wrong way. Nim is a minus. Remember, he has been doing this for a while, which means that these bacteria, which those were legitimate requests from early samples, are now pushing things too much in the wrong direction. Oops, let's do the next one. Nothing there. Bromelain. Nothing there. So in other words, it's none. So far we found two pushing in the wrong direction, a bunch with absolutely no impact. Grapefruit seed extract is positive, so that is still a good one. Monolaurin is not there. Apple is a slight negative, and THYME is a positive. So majority of the things he has been taking are probably should not be continued. Either they have no effect, so there's not much point in doing it, or B, they have a negative effect. The ones that still have a positive effect, you can go in and take a look. For example, time is 123. If I remove that one, it's 543. And usually I like to keep half the highest value as a cutoff point, so it would be below what I would deem a threshold of things to do. Okay, so that was the one thing I forgot to do, which was check his list against the consensus list to see which of those he has been taking should be continued, or which ones no longer are expected to have any effect, or which ones are likely to have an adverse effect, pushing you in the wrong way, which comes to the basically the dilemma, which is that you need to do reasonably regular checking every 3 to 6 months is my user's suggestion. You want to be 3 months of trying things and then do a retest. And because it takes a month to get results, usually I suggest you to have 2 months doing it, get a retest, keep going for another month, and then you get a new result, and you do your next course correction. Okay, that's it. Finally,